In this video we're going to look at a very difficult AS1 binomial expansion. Probably a wee bit too difficult at AS1, more likely to come up an A2 but the formula is there, the formula is used. Okay, right. In this video, similar to one I've done recently there, where we have to use the fact that the binomial expansion of 1 plus x to the power of n is 1 plus nx plus n times n minus 1 times x squared over 2 factorial. Okay, and that's as far as we would need to go in this question. Okay, this is given in your formula booklet, thankfully. At AS1, it's not really used very often. At A21, this is the way you do most of your binomial expansions. Because in A21, what happens is you will get powers of x. The power of the thing, this bit here, this power can be either fractional or it could be negative, and the other way of doing binomial expansion using your NCR button on your calculator does not work basically whenever it's your n is either a fraction or a negative. So it's more likely going to be an A21 question, but it could come up, so that's why we're looking at it for AS1. Okay, let's get cracking on this. It says in the expansion of 1 plus x squared to the power of n, the coefficient of x squared is 3 times the coefficient of x. Find the value of n. Okay, let's write this thing differently. We're going to write it as 1 plus brackets x plus x squared, and then that's all to the power of n, and then I'm going to expand this. So in my mind, in the back of my mind, I've got this thing. I've got that 1 plus x to the power of n was equal to 1 plus n times x plus n times n minus 1 times x squared, and that was over 2 factorial. So that's really what I'm going to be using in this question. So if I expand my thing, it's 1 plus n times my x, which is x plus x squared. That's why we wrote it in a bracket. And then plus n times n minus 1 times x plus x squared, and it's squared, all over 2 factorial. And I'm going to write my 2 factorial as 2 to make life a little bit easier. Okay. Now, unfortunately, what we've got to do is multiply this thing out, so it's a bit of a mess. 1 plus nx plus nx squared, and then this thing here, we've got to multiply it out. So we're going to leave the n, we'll do n times n is n squared, and n times minus 1 is minus n, and then we will square this thing out. So if you square this out, you will get, so this is me doing out x plus x squared, which means x plus x squared upon x plus x squared. So if you did that out, you would get x squared plus 2x cubed plus x to the 4. And that's all being divided by 2. Okay, now we have to be smart about this. It says the coefficient of x squared is 3 times the coefficient of x. Find the value of n. Now we need to find the coefficient of x, and we need to find the coefficient of x squared. We do not need to go beyond anything like that. Anything of powers of x cubed and higher, for example, we can ignore. So we will do that and make life an awful lot easier for ourselves. So when we're multiplying out this next bit, we just need to do the n squared minus n times this. We can forget about these two, thankfully. So it makes life an awful lot easier. So you're just going to have n squared minus n all over 2, and that is multiplying my x squared. The rest of it we couldn't care less about because it is beyond our x squared. Okay, so we are told that the coefficient of x squared, we're told up here, the coefficient of x squared is 3 times the coefficient of x. So we've got to tidy this up again and group these together. So we have got 1 plus n times my x. So I'll just highlight this thing here. This is my coefficient of my x. Okay, let's go on. And then we've also got, we'll have n plus, and then we'll have n squared minus n over 2. Both of those things are multiplying the x squared. So my coefficient of my x squared, my coefficient of my x squared is this horrible looking thing here. Okay, right. So we know the coefficient of x squared is 3 times the coefficient of x. So we'll just set, I'm just going to write that down in words in blue, but I will write that down and just say coefficient of x squared is, so 3 is equal to 3 times the coefficient of x. So I would get no marks for writing that, but that will keep me right. So the coefficient of x squared is 3 times the coefficient of x, which means n plus n squared minus n all over 2, that was the thing in green, is 3 times the coefficient of x, which was just n. Okay, so let's just go with that. Let's sort that out. I bring that one n across, so I'll have n squared minus n all over 2 is equal to just 2n. Multiply across by my 2, I'll have n squared minus n is equal to 4n. And then what I do, I'd bring my n squared, 4n back across, and I have n squared minus 5n is equal to 0. And then just factorize, n comes outside a bracket, and then you'll have n minus 5 in a bracket. And that means you're in a lovely stage of mathematics. You've got a times b equals 0, which means either a is equal to 0 or b is equal to 0. So here, this means that your n equals 0, or it means your n minus 5 is equal to 0. So if n equals 0 or n is equal to 5, and n equals 5 is going to be our answer. And that is it done.